Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, President Trump is expected to speak with Chinese leader Xi Jinping this coming week. That's according to a top official. The development follows the president saying Friday that China has already violated the 90-day tariff truce. A surprise move from President Trump shakes up NASA's leadership. Why his nominee is suddenly out just days before a key Senate vote. Elon Musk stepping down from Doge. What's next? Our panel on the future of the department and how the Trump administration might navigate government restructuring. A closer look at the connection between emotions and physical pain. As big names pick up a drug-free treatment plan to end chronic pain, a leading specialist tells us how it works. And an ancient city is unearthed in South America. Details on what archaeologists discovered, plus the 3,000-year-old city's unusual name.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Kevin Hogan. President Trump is expected to speak with Chinese leader Xi Jinping this coming week. That's the message from White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Watch.
That conversation with President Xi actually has been scheduled. When is it going to take place?
I'm not sure if it's been scheduled at a specific date, but it has been discussed that the two of them will talk about the Geneva Agreement. It's something that the presidents want to talk about this week.
So it is going to happen this week, though? You're sure of that?
I'm not sure, George, because you never know in international relations, but my expectation is that both sides have expressed a willingness to talk.
The top aide spoke to ABC News today saying the two leaders would speak about trade negotiations. The U.S. and China are in the midst of a 90-day tariff reprieve, but Friday morning, Trump wrote on Truth Social that China had totally violated the agreement. Soon after, he wrote that tariffs on steel and aluminum would double. And more news on the China front. At a major defense summit in Singapore, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth delivered a stark warning about China's growing military threat in the Indo-Pacific. Speaking Saturday at the Shangri-La Dialogue, he highlighted the growing dangers in the region and vowed continued support for America's allies.
There's no reason to sugarcoat it. The threat China poses is real, and it could be imminent. We hope not, but it certainly could be. You see, here in the Indo-Pacific, our futures are bound together. The prosperity and security of the American people are linked to those of your people. We share your vision of peace and stability, of prosperity and security. And we are here to stay. And as a matter of fact, we are here this morning, and somebody else isn't.
Hegseth said it's unclear how the Chinese Communist Party will act on Taiwan, but stressed that the U.S. and its allies must stay alert and ready. He warned that China aims to be prepared to take the self-governed island by 2027, marking the urgency of the threat. Hegseth also urged Indo-Pacific nations to boost their defense spending. He noted that if China attempts to use force in the region, it would have devastating consequences. The remarks highlighted a notable shift after years of U.S. officials saying a Chinese invasion was neither imminent nor inevitable. French President Emmanuel Macron also weighed in, warning that if Russia goes unchecked in Ukraine, it could send the wrong message to other global powers. He raised concerns about what might happen in places like Taiwan or the Philippines if the world doesn't push back. Hegseth made it clear that the U.S. isn't looking for a conflict with China, but it won't be pushed out of the key Indo-Pacific region or let its allies be sidelined. And NTD will broadcast special coverage on Wednesday, June 4th, taking a closer look at the U.S.-China trade relations and commemorating the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. Here's a preview.
As world markets watch the current trade truce between the U.S. and China, talks of China opening up are cropping up again. It's a phrase with echoes in the past. What happened the last time major calls for economic reform, even government reform, rang out inside China? What took place that fateful day that is still remembered around the world, but silenced inside China? Join us to see if global trade is under the shadow of 1989, only on NTD.
President Trump has pulled his nomination of Jared Isaacman, a billionaire private astronaut who had been Elon Musk's pick to lead NASA. Isaacman was removed from consideration just ahead of a delayed Senate vote, surprising the space industry. In a Truth Social post on Saturday, the president referenced prior associations as a reason for the withdrawal. He also stated he plans to nominate someone more mission-aligned and committed to putting America first in space. Isaacman responded on X, thanking Trump, the Senate, and NASA. He struck a hopeful tone, saying, quote, "I have not flown my last mission." Last Friday, NASA released details of the Trump administration's 2026 budget proposal, calling for cuts to dozens of space programs and the layoffs of thousands of employees. The plan drew sharp criticism from space advocates and lawmakers who called it a devastating blow to NASA. Isaacman was nominated by Trump back in December and called it the honor of a lifetime. For now, questions remain about the sudden change and who Trump will nominate next to lead the nation's space agency. And staying with news from the White House, from Pentagon reforms and major COVID policy shifts to high-profile pardons, the Trump administration pushed forward on multiple fronts. NTD's Daniel Monahan has your week in review.
President Trump honored Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery.
This morning we pay tribute to their immortal deeds. We share in the sorrow of their beloved families.
Elon Musk wrapped up work with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said DOGE's work continues at the Pentagon.
I'm signing 3 separate memos dealing with reforming the Pentagon, reducing bureaucracy, and moving money toward the needs of our warfighters.
Attorney General Pam Bondi swore in Janine Ferris-Pirro, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, in the Oval Office.
I, Janine Pirro, do solemnly swear.
At the same event, Trump addressed the Harvard visa fight, suggesting a 15% cap on foreign student enrollment.
But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country.
A judge later indefinitely blocked the Trump administration from altering Harvard's student visa program. Meanwhile, Congressman Glenn Ivey said he was denied access after traveling to visit deported Salvadoran Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador.
That's ridiculous. We ought to have a chance to come in and visit. They knew we were coming. They knew why we were coming.
The White House responded on X, accusing Democrats of prioritizing criminal illegal immigrants over American citizens. Trump granted full pardons to reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley. The president called their daughter to give them the news.
Your parents are going to be free and clean, and I hope we can do it by tomorrow.
The couple was convicted in 2022 of bank fraud and tax evasion involving over $30 million. Vice President J.D. Vance promoted crypto at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas.
And I'm here today to say loud and clear, with President Trump, crypto finally has a champion and an ally in the White House.
Consumer confidence surged in May with the biggest monthly jump in 4 years.
Our country is clearly heading in the right direction under President Trump's bold leadership.
The improved sentiment comes amid easing trade tensions. In a historic move, the U.S. raised its flag over the ambassador's residence in Syria for the first time since 2012.
The president's vision is we have to give this young government a chance.
A federal trade court struck down President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs.
America cannot function if President Trump, or any other president for that matter, has their sensitive diplomatic or trade negotiations railroaded by activist judges.
A federal appeals court later temporarily reinstated the tariffs to consider the government's appeal. HHS Chief Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced COVID shots are no longer recommended for healthy kids or pregnant women.
It's common sense and it's good science.
There's no evidence healthy kids need it today, and most countries have stopped recommending it for children.
We're now one step closer to realizing President Trump's promise to make America healthy again.
And in business news, General Motors announced plans to invest nearly $900 million in its Buffalo, New York engine factory. The White House calling it the Trump effect. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
A highway accident in Washington state has caused an unusual kind of emergency. A truck carrying about 70,000 pounds of honeybee hives flipped over near the Canadian border on Friday, releasing millions of bees and prompting warnings from local authorities. With help from over 24 local beekeepers, emergency officials worked to save as many bees as possible. The plan? let the bees find their queen and return to their hives, hopefully within a day or two. One of the beekeepers estimated that roughly 14 million of the insects had escaped in total. By Friday evening, Whatcom County Sheriff's Office shared that most bees should be back in their hives by morning. The department also thanked the beekeeping community for their quick response. Bees are big business. Some keepers focus on honey while others rent out hives to farmers to pollinate crops. The road near the accident will stay closed until the bee rescue wraps up. Local authorities urge people to steer clear of the area for now. Ukrainian and Russian officials are set to hold the second round of direct talks tomorrow. Representatives are starting to arrive in Turkey for the meeting. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastar has the latest on what to expect.
A Russian delegation arrived in Istanbul, Turkey on Sunday evening. Russian media showed the head of the delegation, Vladimir Medinsky, leaving the plane on arrival. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky only recently confirmed that Kiev's officials will join the talks as well. This came after days of uncertainty over whether or not Ukraine would attend. Ukraine's defense minister is now scheduled to sit down with Russian officials at Monday's talks. Ukrainian negotiators will present a proposal to the Russian side, a roadmap for reaching a lasting peace settlement. Russia, meanwhile, drafted a memorandum for a possible peace agreement. According to Moscow, it addresses what Russia calls the root causes of the conflict. In the meantime, the fighting continues. Ukraine reportedly launched a large drone attack on Russian military aircraft on Sunday. That's according to a security official who says 40 Russian warplanes were struck. If confirmed, the strikes would be the most damaging Ukrainian drone attack of the conflict and would be a significant setback for Moscow. Residents in Kiev commented on the operation.
We can be proud of such a successful operation that proves we are capable of delivering a strong blow to the enemy.
I think such successes are necessary. I think it will not affect the talks. Talks are really needed. But this event made us, Ukrainians, happy. I think it sends a certain message too.
Ukraine reportedly hit strategic bombers, which Russia uses to fire long-range missiles. Those claims have not been verified yet. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Wildfires have forced more than 25,000 residents in 3 Canadian provinces to evacuate. Dozens of the fires remain active. Most of the evacuated residents were from the south-central Canadian province of Manitoba. About 17,000 people there had left their homes by Saturday, along with 8,000 in the province of Saskatchewan to the west. 1,300 more were evacuated from Alberta further west. Top officials say ongoing hot, dry weather is allowing some fires to grow, and resources to fight them are stretched thin. The smoke is also affecting U.S. states along the Canadian border. The U.S. Agriculture Department is sending an air tanker to help Alberta and plans to send firefighters soon. Manitoba's capital, Winnipeg, has opened public buildings for evacuees. Hotels are already crammed with other fire refugees, plus vacationers and other travelers. And Israeli forces released a video showing a gunman shooting at people at an aid distribution center in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the UN nuclear watchdog agency is said to have released a confidential report on Iran's nuclear activities. NTD's Jason Perry has the details, and a warning: this report contains footage that some viewers may find disturbing.
On Sunday, residents in the Gaza Strip were seen walking through fenced-off corridors to get food from a new aid distribution center in the territory, and what appear to be security contractors stood guard in the area. However, on the same day, several people were reportedly shot and killed at one of the aid distribution sites, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. A doctor at a hospital in Khan Yunis explained.
As you can see behind me, we've got all the bays are full and they're all gunshot wounds. It's absolute carnage here, and there are even more people in the main emergency department.
One man said his brother was killed while waiting to get food, and many of the people around him blamed Israel for shooting the civilians. But after the incident, Israeli forces said that an initial investigation showed that Israeli troops did not fire at civilians in or around the aid distribution site. And the Israel Defense Forces spokesman said Hamas is trying to stop the people from reaching the aid.
I urge you not to believe every rumor spread by Hamas. We will investigate each and one of those incidents and each and one of those allegations.
And shortly after, Israel released a video showing a gunman firing at people waiting for aid, and another gunman throwing dirt on women who were in the area. And in another development, the International Atomic Energy Agency is said to have released a report on Iran's nuclear activities. And the report, which the Associated Press says it has seen, says that Iran has continued enriching uranium. And Iran is now reportedly close to making several nuclear weapons if it chose to do so. Iran has since denied the allegations, while Israel has said the report reinforces what they have been saying all along, that, quote, the purpose of Iran's nuclear program is not peaceful. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Coming up, Elon Musk stepping down from Doge. What's next? Our panel on the future of Doge and how the Trump administration might navigate government restructuring. And a closer look at the connection between emotions and physical pain. As big names pick up a drug-free treatment plan to end chronic pain, a leading specialist tells us how it works. We'll have more details for you in just a minute here on NTD News. Welcome back. The next chapter of the Department of Government Efficiency begins now. That's because tech billionaire Elon Musk is stepping down from his role leading Doge. He spoke alongside President Trump at the White House Friday in what was his last official day as special government employee. His tenure was 130 days, the max limit for that role. And here to discuss this is our panel with Tim Doscher and Jason Sorens. Tim is the executive director at Unleash Prosperity, and Jason is a senior economist at the American Institute for Economic Research. Thank you both for joining our program. Tim, let's kick this off. Can Doge be as effective in eliminating what Musk calls waste and abuse without Musk, who said he would work very hard for the cause?
Well, first of all, I want to pause because I just wanted to say what a great conversation this is that we're having. I mean, what is the Department of Government Efficiency last year? I mean, it didn't even exist. We weren't having these conversations. And so the fact that we are having the conversation, worrying about whether or not this great work is going to continue is, first of all, good. Second of all, is the work going to continue? 100% it's going to continue. The only thing that we're going to be missing is that massive bullhorn that Elon Musk had to constantly tout to the American people the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that we are discovering every single minute, every single hour in the federal government through Doge's thing. So, yeah, we're going to have to make up for that bullhorn that we're going to miss. But the work's going to continue through Rust's vote. So this is a good thing.
Understood, Tim. And as we know, President Trump created Doge through the executive order after taking office shortly thereafter. So, Jason, what's next for Doge? Open-ended question here. Maybe it needs a new leader. Perhaps legal challenges might shape its future, or could it simply just keep on advancing on its current path unaffected?
I agree that Doge is going to continue. And in fact, some of the most impactful stuff that Doge is going to do may be ahead of it. That's because what Doge is focused on so far is mostly canceling contracts and reducing spending. And in doing so, they've worked with the appointed heads of different departments, like the Secretary of HHS. And they've had a lot of influence that way. But what they're turning their attention to now is federal regulations. And they've already canceled a number of federal regulations. They're working on an additional batch of them right now. We just heard a couple of days ago that Doge has repealed a regulation, a Biden-era regulation that we at AIER urged them to repeal, which allowed pension fund managers to invest in ESG, which is bad, obviously, for their clients because ESG funds earn a lower return than purely market-driven funds. So this is just one example of a number of regulations that Doge is now looking at. And this is an area where they can have a bigger impact because they don't need the approval of Congress to repeal these regulations. So there's a lot of attention on rescissions, and is Congress going to actually enact and legislate these spending cuts from Doge? We don't have to worry about that with regulations.
Understood, Jason. Tim, seems like you're shaking your head. You could, of course, respond to your co-panelists. And also, Musk says his time, his departure is only the beginning of Doge, and that the department's only going to go stronger over time. How might the Trump administration continue restructuring government agencies with Musk no longer at the helm, and what agencies might be affected most?
Well, again, like I said, Elon Musk was incredible because he brought in the advanced AI, the technology, all of this stuff to sort of streamline the regulatory reduction and the shrinking of government, making it run more efficiently. But this has been a conversation that having in the movement, at least in the conservative movement, for decades. The playbook is already there. We know what we're doing. And now what the best part about this is that the culture is being created. Let's create a culture where now the American people are fully aware of the waste, fraud, and the abuse. I mean, if you look at the Government Accountability Office, it's trillions of dollars that they already know about that could be saved over 10 years. Trillions of dollars. Now, as we said, that has to come through Congress, but it's creating the culture that will then drive Congress and drive the American people to finally say, there it is right in front of us. We can see it now. We can see it. Make it happen, Congress. Make it happen. And I think we're going to see that with a big, beautiful bill, especially if we codify the REINS Act, which makes agencies sing to create regulations that cause the American people money. So it's little things like that that we see in D.C. that are a really good thing that Doge has created.
Okay, thanks, Tim. And Jason, meanwhile, the NPR report suggests that Doge has made the government less efficient. Their rationale is cutting a tech unit at the General Services Administration that helped improve digital services, encouraging in-person work when desks and internet access was scarce, and freezing some government payment cards that made it harder to buy basic supplies. Is that an accurate assessment, or is there more at play?
There's a lot more at play, and there may be a few things that Doge has to look at and that departments have to look at restoring. There is an office at the FDA that handles regulatory approvals that has been cut, and there may be a need for restoration there to kind of move drug approvals along. So there are some areas where federal staff are there to help private industry get permits, right? And so we need to make sure that they're able to do that and make sure that that is happening efficiently. But the net effect of Doge has been to cut government spending. And when you look at all the pluses and the minuses in terms of what they're cutting and what they're going to have to restore, it's still about $19 billion, according to a recent report from Reuters, that they've cut. So this is what we need in the federal government, right? And when you go in and you start finding this waste, fraud, and abuse, and you start cutting inefficiencies, yeah, you might go a little far in some areas, but we need this. We haven't had this in decades in the federal government. So it wasn't going to be a pretty process. And yeah, people are complaining. Special interests are complaining about having their budgets cut. But this is the start to getting federal spending under control and reducing our debt.
Thanks for that, Jason. And Tim, there have been reforms in the past, as your co-panelist was saying, distant past maybe, but in recent years, it seems Doge is doing something novel. And I'll give you just one example of contracts they have ended, like millions for making mice transgender. Is Doge helping Americans understand more clearly how their tax dollars are being spent?
I'm laughing right now, but I shouldn't be laughing. I mean, it's absolutely offensive that the federal government based in Washington, D.C., with a very tiny landmass, with a ton of people living there, feeding off of the government, that's a part of the problem. That's the Doge culture that we are seeing now. We are bringing Americans along with the idea that shrinking the government is actually a good thing because we're not going to miss it. We're not going to miss all of these things that we've uncovered because of this great work that Elon Musk has done and that we're going to continue to do. And then whoever else comes next will continue to do. These are the things that are there, and there's a heck of a lot more out there.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Jason, what's the biggest challenge for Doge going forward?
Yeah, I think the number one challenge is getting Congress to agree to these rescissions. We've heard from Stephen Miller recently that these rescissions will mostly not be in the one big beautiful bill, so they're going to have to be dealt with separately because they are mostly discretionary spending. So we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a battle where the administration is going to come out in favor of doing this. And I think they're going to get it through Congress, but we'll have to see. So that's the number one challenge. Number two challenge is simply going through the massive federal regulations. The Federal Register is immense. And there's a lot in there that is pretty subtle, and it's going to take a few months to continue to sort out what has to stay because it's required by statute, and what we can get rid of to free up the dynamism in the American economy, free up entrepreneurs to create jobs and create wealth.
Got it, Jason. Tim, according to Doge's website, the agency has saved an estimated $175 billion so far. Is the $1 trillion in savings over Doge's lifetime, if it doesn't get extended, feasible, considering that a lot of the federal budget's mandatory spending?
Yeah, well, look, that's why I was talking about creating the culture that then Congress is going to have to step up and do this. We mentioned the rescissions package. I mean, this is, what, $9 billion. It's not that much, but it's every cent is a fight in Washington, D.C. Every little penny is fight for. So that's why we got to talk about continuing Doge to continue to create the culture to say that, hey, we can remove $9 billion. No problem. You're not going to miss it. Nobody else is going to miss it. Really, nobody in Wichita, Kansas who is counting on the federal government to provide prosperity, a pathway to prosperity. Nobody in Wichita, Kansas is going to miss the, $9 billion of, transgender mice. It's just not going to happen. And so that's the culture. And I keep talking about it. I know it sounds superficial, but we keep talking about changing the culture here so Congress gets the message and then can get rid of the $175 billion that we found, and then beyond that.
Okay, Tim, let's go to you, Jason. According to the Economic Policy Institute, up to 26 states are starting to develop their own versions of Doge, and that includes Florida and Iowa, to name a few. Do these local iterations signal the federal agency is resonating or perhaps being reinterpreted?
Absolutely, and each state is going about it differently, right? So they are interpreting their mandate in different ways to address the regulations that they have in the state. And I'll also mention that the REINS Act has really already been passed at the state level in a number of states. And so, as we often see, free market reform starts at the state level, and then it moves to the federal level. So each state is doing the Doge process a little differently. Some states have a problem more with overspending. Some states have a problem more with overregulation. I would say most states, especially red states, tend to be a lot more efficient than the federal government. So there's less that they're going to find to cut. But these are efforts that are very welcome, because we know that state and local government affects our lives tremendously. And so it's important to find efficiencies there as well.
Great in-depth discussion on this topic. Tim Dozier and Jason Sorens, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And we do have some breaking news for you right now. FBI Director Kash Patel says the agency is aware of a targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado. Patel says law enforcement is on the scene already, and the agency will share information as it comes in. And we'll keep you updated as the situation develops. And coming up, a closer look at the connection between emotions and physical pain. As big names pick up a drug-free treatment plan to end chronic pain, a leading specialist tells us how it works. And an ancient city is unearthed in South America. Details on what archaeologists discovered, plus the 3,000-year-old city's unusual name in just a minute, right here on NTD. Good to have you back with us. A study by news outlet The Guardian finds that more than half of the trending mental health advice on TikTok is false. And that's a big problem, as more and more people turn to the app for news and other information. Over in the UK, British politicians and experts are urging their government to strengthen regulations. British psychologist Amber Johnson said each video is guilty of suggesting that everyone has the same experience of PTSD with similar symptoms that can easily be explained in a 30-second reel. TikTok responded, saying the study opposes free expression of mental health information. The app also claims it works with health organizations to take down 98% of harmful misinformation before it's reported. The app faces several lawsuits in the U.S., accusing it of harming children's mental health and causing depression and anxiety. Dr. Howard Schubiner, a world expert in pain management and mind-body medicine, says chronic pain can actually be unlearned in some cases. In this preview of Epic TV's Vital Signs, host Brendan Fallon explores this form of treatment, which has entered the celebrity circle with the doctor himself.
In former Fox journalist John Stossel's case, feelings of rage were at the heart of his chronic back pain. Stossel is one of a string of celebrities, including Larry David, Jimmy Kimmel, and Howard Stern, outspoken about their back pain relief via a mind-body approach. In 1999, Stossel reported on his experience in a 2020 report. Here we see him being counseled by Dr. John Sarno.
So I'm in such a rage about something that I'm making myself suffer.
But don't you see, your brain actually thinks it's doing you a favor by doing this.
By distracting me from what I really don't want to think about.
Exactly.
Stossel had suffered back pain for 15 years before learning of the work that Dr. Sarno was doing. He said that after seeing Sarno and reading one of his books, his back pain got immediately better. For a while. 6 months later, the pain came back. Realizing that he hadn't followed Sarno's suggestions, which included going to one of his seminars, Stossel finally went, and the pain got better again. Back around 2011, he said that he'd been virtually pain-free for 10 years. The idea that repressed emotion like rage can cause back pain reminded me of how psychological trauma can play out as very real physical symptoms, as seen especially in PTSD, where it can manifest as things like stomach upsets, skin rashes, and chest pain. And just as mind-body medicine for pain appears to work at the juncture of memory, emotion, and the central nervous system, one of the most effective treatments for PTSD, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, or EMDR, also deals with memory, emotion, and can lower the stress response of the central nervous system. With EMDR, the patient's focus is brought to their trauma memory at the same time they're given bilateral stimulation. This is often in the form of back and forth eye movements directed by the therapist. Exactly how EMDR is able to bring about such a change is still something of a mystery, so I was interested to hear Dr. Schubiner's take on how it might work.
Childhood trauma causes the brain to be set in a more sensitized fashion, a more high alert fashion as people go through life. If someone has been severely hurt or criticized or betrayed or abandoned in their childhood, and then later in life they get criticized or abandoned, then their brain is much more likely to turn on some kind of danger signal. I was greeting a military veteran a while ago, and he thought that his PTSD came from being in the military because of the things that he saw there and did there, which was true. But it was also because of the childhood issues that he had in his life growing up, which sensitized his brain and made him more likely to develop PTSD later in life. And so the treatment models that EMDR is, and the treatment model Mark Lumley and I have developed called Emotional Awareness and Expression Therapy, and the expressive writing that you talked about earlier, and there's a whole bunch of other psychological treatments for PTSD, all of them work to rewire the brain, reprogram the brain to not only view but also experience the events of their past in a less traumatic way, in a way which is more kind to themselves, loving to themselves, in a way that helps to empower themselves to be less affected by the events that happen, that you can't change the events. But what's interesting about PTSD is that it's based on memory, because how do we know what happened in our past? It's our memory. Memory changes all the time, and so our emotional awareness and expression therapy is based on memory reconsolidation and these other treatments you talked about as well. So the point is that the brain is neuroplastic. It's always changing, and it can change in a positive direction as we do these kinds of therapies.
To see that full interview and others on how to optimize health, go to ept.ms/vital signs. Vital Signs offers general health information not intended as medical diagnosis or advice. Please consult your doctor before undertaking a new health regimen.
And Skittles are getting a makeover. Parent company Mars Incorporated has officially removed an additive targeted by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. from its candy. Titanium dioxide, once used to make food appear brighter and shinier, was banned in Europe in 2022 for being potentially linked to cellular damage. It has raised health concerns at home as well, including possible DNA damage. That's according to a recent report by Kennedy's Make America Healthy Again Commission. The substance was still listed in Skittles until recently, despite Mars promising to phase it out in 2016. In a statement to media, a company spokesperson said the change aligns with its commitment to meeting food standards worldwide. Earlier this month, the FDA said it would speed up its review of the additive, which is still used in thousands of candies and other foods. Artificial intelligence chatbots are making scam emails even harder to spot. Criminals are using the technology to clean up telltale signs like clunky grammar and weird phrasing. And experts say this evolution is proving very effective. Last year alone, they made off with more than $16 billion, according to the FBI. Here's what experts say you should look for and tips for how to keep your online details safe.
Nowadays, being able to catch AI-ridden scams feels like it requires an entirely new approach.
I would say yes, new playbook. I think training needs to be highly personalized.
Mike Britton with Abnormal AI says AI chatbots are helping scammers write messages that are not only free of typos, but also closely resemble those of trusted senders.
If I have a few samples of your writing or email, I can mimic your style using a ChatGPT or a Claude or any other AI chatbot. It's fairly trivial to understand what tools and technologies your organization uses, whether you're a Zoom shop or you use Microsoft, whatever you use for email, and I can start to craft third-party type of messages attacking.
For example, Britton says, a scammer might send what looks like a Zoom update email or an email impersonating your work's IT department, knowing there's a high likelihood people may open the link.
So as an attacker, I'm going to pretend to be one of those trusted brands.
With the threat of scammers trying to deceive people, Britton says there are ways people can stay aware and protect themselves on top of training through their work.
Time is your friend. Attackers and criminals are always working off a sense of urgency. And so if I get an email and it's my CEO and my CEO is asking for urgent help on getting gift cards, the more I step away and let my brain re-engage and kind of let the amygdala hijack kind of wear off, then I'm much more likely to use my training and what I know is the right things to do and not reply.
Stay with us. Astronomers have discovered an astounding celestial object. It's completely new to them and has them scratching their heads. And an ancient city is unearthed in South America. Details on what archaeologists discovered, plus the 3,000-year-old city's unusual name, in a minute here on NTD News. It's good to have you back with us. Astronomers have found a pulsing object in space, and it's different from anything they've ever seen before. A celestial object in our galaxy gives off bright bursts of radio waves and X-rays that last about 2 minutes. These bursts happen every 44 minutes. Experts said the cause remains a mystery. It's located in our galaxy around 15,000 light years from Earth. Scientists think it might be a type of object called a long-period transient. These are a newly discovered cosmic object that sends out bright radio signals every few minutes to several hours. Fewer than a dozen have been found since they were first discovered in 2022. A city hidden for more than 3,000 years has been unearthed in Guatemala. Archaeologists say the site sheds new light on the Mayan civilization. The lost city's name? Los Abuelos, Spanish for the grandparents. That name comes from 2 sculptures found there depicting 2 people believed to be a couple. The discovery also includes a number of pyramids and monuments, as well as a unique canal system. According to Guatemala's Culture Ministry, these structures point to the lost city's role as a ceremonial site. Mayan civilization is known to be roughly 4,000 years old. Its people lived in what are now known as Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, and part of Mexico. And a teenager from Texas now holds the title of Scripps National Spelling Bee Champion. Faizan Kaki's enthusiasm for spelling nearly got the best of him last year, but this year's marked his second chance, and he seized the title. Here's the story.
That got in my head.
The 13-year-old from Allen, Texas lost in a lightning round tiebreaker last year, but he outlasted 8 other accomplished spellers to win the title last night. This includes 2 that he let back into the competition after a careless flub.
Camelina.
K-A-M. Oh, okay. Wait. Let me think. All the information.
Oh boy. Camelina. Camelina.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Whatever. Just bring it. I'm sorry.
He knows he said the wrong first letter once he heard the actual word.
Camelina is a kind of plant. It's spelled C-O-M-M-E-L-I-N-A.
Yeah. Camelina. Oh my God. That was like, I'm definitely going to be having nightmares about that tonight. But other than that, I do regret like spending a lot of time on the spell off. I think I got like too over prepared because I did the practice when I got 43 out of 45. So I think I really overdid that. So since they didn't even do it this year, but other than that, I'm just really happy, no regrets.
Saki was told to take a deep breath before his final word. Without asking any questions, he spelled it correctly. He then pumped his fist and collapsed to the stage after saying the last letter.
Éclaircissement.
Éclaircissement. E-C-L-A-I-R-C-I-S-S-E-M-E-N-T. Éclaircissement. That is correct.
It was a riveting conclusion to a competition that started back in 1925.
So, éclaircissement, that was a relatively easy word that I recognized, and I just decided to go for it. Since obviously slower, I still spelled it like E-C-L. So it was like, so I wouldn't like accidentally misspeak or say something wrong.
The champion. Somebody peel him off the floor. We have a winner, a champion, and Scripps CEO Adam Simpson will now present the trophy to Faison.
Saki was crowned champion in a hall of confetti before being joined on stage by his parents and other relatives. He won $52,500 for coming in first place. Added to his earlier $25,000 second place prize, his total spelling bee earnings are now $77,500.
Valerie Mahaffey, the Emmy-winning actress celebrated for her roles in Desperate Housewives and Young Sheldon, passed away on Friday in Los Angeles after a battle with cancer. She was 71, her publicist, Julian Roscoe, confirmed. Mahaffey was known for her vibrant portrayals of eccentric characters. She won an Emmy for her role as Eve in Northern Exposure. Her career spanned nearly 5 decades, with notable performances in French Exit, Seinfeld, and ER. She is survived by her husband, actor Joseph Kell, and their daughter, Alice Richards. Kell shared a heartfelt message afterward, quote, "I have lost the love of my life, and America has lost one of its most endearing actresses." Fans and colleagues have taken to social media to honor her legacy. And not all plants survive on sunlight alone. Deep in North Carolina, certain species have evolved to trap and digest insects for extra nutrition. Take a look.
Venus flytraps are some of the most unique living things in the world. The plant supplements the nutrients they get from sunlight by digesting ants, flies, and spiders. Their leaves snap shut when tiny hairs are touched. Once trapped, the insect becomes food for the plant.
Venus flytraps in the leaf itself have a couple trigger hairs, right? So the trigger hairs are sensitive to touch, just like a sensitive plant would be. Those trigger hairs, after one is triggered, it starts a timer of about 20 seconds. And in that 20 seconds, if the insect or spider triggers another one of those hairs, the trap then closes shut and will trap the prey.
A hike at Carolina Beach State Park on the southeast North Carolina coast also shows off other carnivorous plants. There are vase-shaped pitcher plants that have liquid at the bottom that traps insects, then digests them.
Those are pitcher plants, like a drinking pitcher. They have a deep tube. They don't bite at all. No.
The hike is one of the few places to see Venus flytraps. The plant only grows in 12 counties in southeast North Carolina and a few nearby places in South Carolina. Now is an especially good time to take that hike. Venus flytraps bloom from about mid-May to mid-June.
Venus flytraps only found within 100 miles of Wilmington, nowhere else in the world, right? And they're really important because they are a symbol of really healthy longleaf pine ecosystems and a healthy ecosystem that has seen a natural cycle of fire.
The flytrap is a fragile plant that needs fire to survive. Wildfires in the pine forest where they grow clear the denser overgrowth to provide the abundant sunlight the plant needs. They face two big enemies, poachers and development.
Venus flytraps are protected by the state of North Carolina. It's actually considered a felony to remove Venus flytraps from the land. So, they're heavily protected because they're so sought after. There has been many cases where those felony prosecutions have gone through.
Venus flytraps can grow well at home with the right care. And they don't have to eat bugs if they can get enough nutrients from photosynthesis. Venus flytraps are rare in the wild, but you can find them in greenhouses and plant stores around the world.
A revival of tradition is underway in Greece. It involves riders on horseback wading into the Aegean Sea. Here's a look at the special occasion in the coastal city of Kalanera.
Dozens of riders gathered at the shoreline for the centuries-old blessing. Greek Orthodox Bishop Metropolitan Ignatius of Demetrius offered prayers and holy water before the animals entered the sea to be symbolically cleansed.
This is a very old tradition where the locals used to bring their domestic animals on the day of the Ascension of the Lord to be blessed and cleansed. After the priest blessed the waters, they would dunk their animals to the sea to be blessed, because the people were very loyal to the Orthodox Church.
The tradition is believed to date back nearly 2 centuries. It began when villagers from the mountainous Pelion region would come down to the coast 40 days after Easter. They bathed in the sea and brought their livestock for a symbolic cleansing to mark the end of winter. Locals and visitors lined the beach to watch the procession.
Words cannot describe this feeling. So many of us riding our horses, even being around them is the highlight of the day. And and it makes us feel clarity and peace.
Though nearly forgotten for decades, the event has been revived as a vibrant and meaningful celebration of faith, community, and tradition.
For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. And that's all for tonight's news. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Kevin Hogan. Good night.